Starting up and hello everyone, welcome along. We've got the Chief Executive Officer of Cinemaddicts with us this evening, Stuart Macadam, and just before we begin the broadcast and get into the interview with Stuart, I'd just like to point out that if you play around with the Q&A pod, the question and answer pod, you may be able to ask us some questions during the interview, and YouTube records a sort of a timestamp on those questions, so it's a very convenient way of finding out about the particular things that you ask. So we're happy to field questions. We won't see them for a couple of minutes after you've put them in. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn over to Stuart. Welcome to Live on Air from Waiaki Methodist Church, Stuart. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? Thanks.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Stuart Macadam. I'm 23 years old. By day, I'm a marketing consultant and freelance writer for a range of different clients, both in New Zealand and internationally. I'm the CEO of Cinemaddicts.co.nz. We're a movies website which does film reviews. We cover the latest news. We do interviews, competitions, and we've also got some of the latest trailers as well.
Yeah, we're going to swap over to your website later on in the interview. I thought it's really exciting to meet you and sort of hear about what you were trying to do in terms of promoting films. And it's got a particular relevance to sort of my church group, which is an older age group that many of them have an interest in cinema, but we haven't used it in the way that a lot of other church groups and just interested people use it. So that's why we're really looking forward to talking to you tonight, Stuart, and learning a bit more about both cinema and Cinema Addicts. Well, I'm going to bring up a screen, and you should be able to see it now, sharing my screen on the questions that we're going to ask this evening of you. And I wonder if we could begin with Stuart, you explaining to us, please, what Cinema Addicts is all about.
Sure. So Cinema Addicts is primarily being a movie portal website which provides people with the latest information about everything movie related. Now, when we talk about everything movie related, the emphasis is both on big blockbusters, which are producing millions of dollars for film companies, and also working as well with up-and-coming filmmakers, those that may not have the notoriety or drawcard attraction that many people have. So we'll do interviews with all sorts of people. We put up movie trailers for all sorts of people. We do reviews for lots of different people. And we also just want to have an environment in which is informative and engaging as well. Our focus from day one has always been to produce the best content and not to produce content which is junky or it contains like spelling errors or grammatical run-ons.
All right, okay. That's interesting because quite often I make spelling errors online and all kinds of bad writing mistakes. But what I've noticed about Cinema Addicts is that your reviews, and you seem to have quite a few reviewers, they're very, very honest. They read very well, and I would, I'm sort of converted to it now, that basically if I wanted to find out about latest film, I think your reviews provide really good, interesting, informed comment. You got anything to comment about there?
Yes, certainly. When I was initially looking for reviewers, it was initially like the three owners. I've got the majority stake, and there's two other smaller owners, Elise and Alex. Alex is our promotions manager, and Elise is our key content manager. So she does all the proofreading for the reviews, and that helps a lot because she's an English teacher of 25 plus years. So no mistakes go past her eyes. As far as reviewers go, yeah, we've got a wide range of people. So we've got someone that's training to be a social worker. We've got a nurse. We have a librarian. We've got a salesman. We've got, me, a marketing man. So like we get a wide variety of different opinions, and I think that definitely adds a lot to Cinema Addicts itself, because people want to be able to read reviews which they can connect with, and we've got people from all different walks of life in the community that come together and give their thoughts and feedback on films which they've been to see.
Yeah, there's certainly a breadth of opinion amongst the reviewers. Wonder, Stuart, you've obviously got a deep interest in cinema and film, and you're doing a great job, and your company's on Facebook and Twitter and so on. But what we probably wouldn't get from the website, what your favourite movies are and why they're favourites for you. So before we turn to actually looking at the website, I'm going to ask you, well, I think I know in advance what your favourite movie of all time is. Tell us about your most favourite movie.
Well, I don't think you can go wrong with James Cameron's original Terminator film, which starred Arnold Schwarzenegger. That to me is the pinnacle of fantastic filmmaking, because one, he faced tremendous challenges in putting the whole film together on a very limited budget, and two, because he took an unknown actor, or relatively unknown actor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and turned him into a global phenomenon. And I think to see the end product now and the iconic status it's got, that to me is filmmaking at its absolute best.
In that film, you've got some really big, troubling themes, and so is it partly to do with the themes of the movie that make it so have such an impact, in your opinion?
Well, it certainly would be, because James Cameron made a very prophetic statement, so to speak, when he originally came up with the idea of Terminator. He was actually overseas at the time when the idea first came to him, and he had this nightmare about these robotic creatures walking towards him, and that's where the whole inception came. And yeah, I think from there he displayed that the influence of technology and the power which it has to completely control the lives of people, if given the opportunity, certainly sends a lot of alarm bells off, and it's one to make us very conscious of what's happening. I think another thing as well to note, David, is James Cameron's very big on having strong female characters, and that's something which is not often the case in these big Hollywood blockbusters. You often find it's the the macho male that'll be running in to save the day, whether it's Superman or the main man in Guardians of the Galaxy. It's always like the sort of macho man. Whereas in James Cameron's films, you look at not just the Terminator, but also like Aliens and Avatar as well. Like, he's got strong female characters.
Right. It's really interesting that he decided to come and live down at the bottom of the North Island in a relatively remote part from Wellington. So
probably it's probably because the aliens can't get to him.
I like it. A second favourite movie that you had that you talked about was a real old-time classic in some ways, and that was Grease. And what were the big themes in Grease that sort of got you thinking?
Well, it's amazing, because I think when you're talking about the influence of all the Christian themes in films, I think Grease provides one of the best examples of that in terms of the parallel to living a Christian life. And being a Christian, you often required to do things you don't want to do, and not doing things you do want to do. And I think that's very much the theme in Grease. You find that there's this good girl Sandy and this bad boy Danny, and in order to capture each other's hearts, Sandy's determined to do whatever it takes to win Danny, and Danny also wants to do the same, but it requires them to completely reinvent themselves and become different people. And I think that to me has always sort of had a big appeal, because it's a real sort of coming of age story that has these very lovely, relatable characters who you can actually look at and say, this person reminds me so much of Joe back in high school, or this one reminds me so much of Amelia back in senior year. You can just, there's always someone you can relate to in the film.
Yeah, and I think that leads on really quite naturally to the images that I put up there, which are from the Narnia, Aslan the Lion, and that sort of iconic lamppost that sort of signals an entry into the mythical world of Narnia. Here we've got a movie that does pick up a specifically Christian concept, namely about sacrifice and self-sacrifice, but it does it in a way that uses myth, the world of myth, in quite a staggering kind of way. And C.S. Lewis's Narnia stories never once sort of mentioned the word Christianity, but of course it's the books breathe and live in an atmosphere of Christian values. And I think that may be one of the reasons why sometimes the Christian theme emerges best in films that aren't specifically Christian. The question was put, why do heathens make the best Christian films? And in my opinion, this is probably true of so much of living the Christian life. When we try to talk about it in a very full-on way and make it all explicit, it doesn't work as well as if we're telling another story in which the Christian values emerge. Now, what you're saying about Terminator and Grease, and we could apply it to a whole range of films, big themes, universal themes about how to live life, and Christianity is all about how to live life. They emerge and we get caught up into the story. So when I was talking to you, I did a little bit of research myself, and I found that a lot of people regard specifically Christian films is not very good, but I don't like the word heathens there, but I'm just quoting the Catholic film critic that made the observation. He was really saying some of the most fantastic directors put Christian ideas, or put across the Christian ideas in their films in a way that really moves us in cinema. And that I guess is my big question to you for the evening. Do you think films are there to move us, to connect with our emotions?
Yes, I definitely think that's the case. If you have a look at why people enjoy movies so much and what keeps on attracting them to go again and again and again to watch all different types of movies, it's because movies provide two things. The first is it's a means of escapism. So everything that's going on in your life at a particular point in time, when you walk into the cinema, you're focused on somebody else's situation and conditions. The second is movies have an extraordinary ability to influence the people's thoughts, ideas, their beliefs, and also what should and shouldn't be accepted as normal. I can give you a good example of a recent one. If you look at the film Matthew McConaughey won an Oscar for, it was about a gay man, and up until about the 1990s, homosexuality was something which was considered very taboo, and in the time of the setting, the film was very much, you know, homosexuality was a very taboo thing, and now it's, you know, society generally accepts it. So you look at that as one film which is sort of really picked up in popularity, and another is, I think, as far as the why do heathens make the best Christian films, I think often because the thought of this a redeemer coming into the rescue has a big appeal to people, because often people are going through massive struggles in their own life, which they may or may not realize are happening. And they're often looking for a situation or a magical touch or a person that will help inspire them to get out of it. So
that's a really, oh, sorry, you carry on.
Yeah, I'll just say one more thing. It's a really big thing, because ultimately, to me, you know, I have seen some good Christian films, but a lot of them don't inspire you, or people don't want to go and see them because there's a lot of the elements which should have been strong which fall over, and whereas in the films made by the quote heathens unquote, often manage to stay strong throughout the whole 2 hours or however long the film is.
Yeah, look, there's just so much in what you've said that I want to agree with very, very much. A big theme is redemption in life. Life throws stuff at us in all kinds of ways, and you know, just getting through day by day can be pretty tough for some people. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a second. It can be really very, very tough, and you go off to the movies and you know you're entering a different world, a world created that's telling a story that you almost expect that somehow your heart will be touched in it, and possibly your mind will be enlightened by it as well. And when this happens, it is inspirational for you to be able to go out and live life in your difficult circumstances. And I think this is a really important, it's a background Christian principle by which we should all live our lives, that the inspiration of Jesus is always there, and the inspiration of the Old Testament prophets, and maybe some of the new prophets in today's day and age as well. But it's a backdrop that if we don't hear the story of inspiration, then it makes our struggle all the harder. There's a great example, of course, in South Africa, and how you've got you know, the whole Mandela transformation that occurs during his time in jail, and the inner resource that he finds for himself. And this story could be multiplied up. You and I were talking just before the broadcast started about some of the examples in the Second World War, or the First World War, and all kinds of places and situations. We need to hear the story, whether it's made up in film or whether it's telling a true story. I don't think matters so much as the fact that we can participate in the story. And this is the big message of the Christian story, that we have a chance within our own lives to participate and build up that message. I'm going to ask you to start sharing your screen so that we can have a look at the Cinemaddicts site. And just while Stuart's doing that, a reminder to the viewers, we've got 5 viewers in at present. You're very welcome. If you can just navigate around, you might be able to bring up your Q&A pod. So Stuart, I see you've got us over into the site. Would you like to explain to us how this website works, and then take us over to a trailer?
Yes, certainly, David. So this is Cinemaddicts right here. As you can see, we've got quite a simple layout, which is what the initial idea was. We didn't want something too complicated that someone would have difficulty finding a particular review or trailer or competition. So we've got all of that up at the top, as you can see right here. For reviews, we've got different categories as well, depending on the person's interests. We review almost anything which comes to us from an up-and-coming filmmaker. We've got movie news, so that contains like press releases from film and publicists, as well as interviews we do as well. And if I scroll down right here, you'll see that we've got a New Zealand film category as well. We enjoy, New Zealand film, and our initial vision was to have a place where New Zealand filmmakers could come and share their work with us. So recently we've interviewed Guy Pigden, who's the director of I Survived a Zombie Holocaust, and Someone to Carry Me. That's a film by Samuel Thomas. And we've also got some trailers, competitions, and up here the reviews. And also as well, here's one of the trailers we've got. It's Citizen 4 by Edward Snowden, which is about Edward Snowden and how the United States is hunting him after he came out about mass surveillance by the US Secret Service.
Oh, I look forward to seeing this trailer. Thank you.
Laura, at this stage I can offer nothing more than my word. I am a senior government employee in the intelligence community. I hope you understand that contacting you is extremely high risk. For now, know that every border you cross, every purchase you make, every call you dial, every cell phone tower you pass, friend you keep, site you visit, and the subject line you type is in the hands of a system whose reach is unlimited, but whose safeguards are not. In the end, if you publish the source material, I will likely be immediately implicated. I ask only that you ensure this information makes it home to the American public. Thank you, and be careful. Citizen 4.
So I don't know anything about you.
Okay, I work for,
So I don't know your name.
no, sorry, my name is Edward Snowden. I go by Ed. Edward Joseph Snowden's the full name.
Great, thanks for that, Stuart. Would you like to? Oh, sorry.
Not a problem.
Would you like to bring us back to your stop sharing your screen now, and so we can come back to direct interview.
Sure.
Thanks. Just while Stuart's doing that, the Snowden film, I think, is one that I'm kind of instantly attracted to. The reason is that my favorite movies are in the sort of Cold War spy era. A little bit of James Bond on the fringe, but I really do like some of the, you know, Tinker Tailor, Soldier Spy, that kind of movie. And there's a fantastic TV series that we haven't seen here. I think it's called An Honourable Woman, and that really picks up some of the tensions around the Middle East and big business and politics. Fantastic spy movie. So do you have an interest in spy movies?
Oh, you know what, David? One of my favorite Bond films, or it would be James Bond, and it'd be Casino Royale. I think that, to me, is one of the pinnacles of what a good spy film is. There are some very captivating ones as well that I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but James Bond stands out to me the most. And there would certainly be a couple of others in there as well, but I just can't remember them all now. There's just so many.
Right. I've selected we've had our first question has come through from Stuart, and he's asked, what criteria do you use to determine a good film? Any comments about that, Stuart?
Yeah, certainly, and it's a very good question. To me, a film needs to be first and foremost enjoyable. It can be I mean, if you're going to watch a comedy, you can't expect to have a film crafted along a Sherlock Holmes plotline. I mean, you just got to understand and accept that it's got to be something which makes you laugh. So it's got to meet the and fit into the genre which it's set out to fit into, and it needs to do that very effectively. I recently went to see Trainwreck, an apparent comedy, and I just found myself cringing up in my seat for the best part of 2 hours because it was just not funny, and very uncomfortable. Secondly, it has to have good acting. I mean, you can tell a good actor from a bad actor just in the way that they deliver the lines, in the way that they use body language, and also as far as, you know, their own performance, how much they actually believe they are this character. One of the most memorable performances ever given on screen was Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, and that was his last full-length film before he passed away very prematurely. And he was so into his character. If you actually go and have a look at the diary he was keeping in preparation for it, you could actually almost be mistaken for thinking that this was some sort of lunatic that was locked up in a mental asylum, but in fact it was him just getting into character. So that's the second thing. The third is it needs to be believable. You need to actually feel like if they're shooting a Martian film, you need to feel like you're on Mars, or you need to feel like you're in Nova Scotia or in the middle of Tatooine in Star Wars. You can't feel like you're just, you know, filming it down the road in a green screen studio. It needs to be believable, because if you can't immerse yourself in it, you're going to withdraw from it and just think of when can you get out of the theatre.
That's a very helpful set of criteria. I think convincing acting, yeah, there are different ways that actors can get into the character, but you know whether they are enjoying their role or not. Sometimes it can seem a little bit lifeless and you know, a little bit wooden, or on the other end of the spectrum, it can be overacted. The best acting is you're unaware that it's acting. You've been taken into the heart of the story, as you say. I have to suspend belief when I enter cinema, and by suspending belief, I can enter into that story, and the story itself then makes it all the more believable. So I know when I'm watching, just for example, so I could just go back to the Narnia ones, I know when I'm watching Narnia that it's not real, but in some ways it's more real than real. They've created that world. And I think for me, this is just a personal observation, that set of criteria applied brilliantly to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's an entirely mythical world, but it makes no attempt to say this is the reality at any stage. But in that mythical world, everything has become real. So I think, Stuart, that those criteria, do you want to, I'll consider that question has been done, but anyone that wants to ask a question, please go ahead and do so. We're broadcasting for about another between 5 and 10 minutes, so we're happy to take any further questions. Stuart, do you have a favourite set of actors or actresses? I don't know what the female term is these days. I suppose they're just all actors, are they?
Yeah, you would be right on that one. It used to be actors and actresses until that got branded as sexist. So it's just actors now. Everyone's an actor. As far as your question goes, I would say my favorite actor is definitely Kevin Spacey. I think he's got an amazing ability to get into his characters very quickly and play them out to be very persuasive and real people. If you look at his performance as Lester Burnham in American Beauty, he was absolutely brilliant. As the lifeless dad who is hitting a midlife crisis. Also as well in the film 21, when he was the MIT professor, you actually got the feeling that this guy knew everything about how to count cards and blackjack. It was just so well rounded and tuned, and you felt so accustomed to being with him. You felt safe and secure knowing that what he was about to say would provide some, positive inroads to success in counting cards and blackjack.
Because he's recently had the big success with the American version of House of Cards, hasn't he?
He certainly has, yes.
Yeah. And I think I read in a review in the Listener or something like that, that you know, in some ways he really enjoyed doing the I think it's 2 series now of House of Cards. It's very different from the original British production of House of Cards, but it's got its own inner logic also. Do you see that the work of Cinema Addicts extends it all over into, say, a review of some of the TV series?
We're certainly looking at doing that. At the moment, it's quite an overwhelming process to, you know, also find the reviewers who have got the time and availability to go to the screens to get everything done. So our initial focus is to build up enough of a continuity that we can have everybody, you know, a certain group of people that do movie reviews and a certain group of people that do TV reviews. But yes, we're definitely looking at expanding it out.
Hey, I'm really glad to hear that. Stuart, one of the things that I'd like to sort of help us draw the interview to a close with, since we've started dialoguing together, I've seen that somehow or other I'd like to be able to embed some of the Cinema Addict stuff directly into our website, so that people that do have an interest in cinema can, I mean, I can make a link, sure, but some of your stuff I think could be very interesting to some of the people that in our sixsenses.nz website. Overall, there's about 350 people involved in that website. Not all of them are active, but there's at least, in any given year, there's at least 100 active, and very few people asked to be taken off the subscription lists. So I just think some of the stuff that Cinema Addicts is doing really could be very beneficial to us as a Christian group, trying to understand better and just appreciate and go to more movies and that kind of thing. So would you be happy if we put some links into Cinema Addicts? I mean, people from our group would obviously have to enroll separately into Cinema Addicts with you, but you're happy if we do that?
Yeah, certainly, that's absolutely fine.
And we'll with this broadcast, we'll make it available so that if you want, you can chop it up and use bits of video here and there. I just got an overwhelming endorsement of the Cinema Addicts site, and I think for a young guy, you've created something that's of great value, because it's local and contextual cinema, as well as the big movie blockbusters from Hollywood and so on. And I think that's a tremendous achievement that you've got it up and running so well at this point. So I want to say thank you very much, and I'm very appreciative of the links that we've been able to forge together. And I'd like you to be able to have the closing comment before we bring our broadcast to a close. Is there anything that you'd like to say about Cinema Addicts or yourself to our audience?
Yes, certainly. Thanks very much for the rounding endorsements. Very kind of you. I think our focus has always been for the little guy. We've got a very open door policy on allowing up-and-coming filmmakers to send their films through for review, and also to share it as well, or if they want to do an interview. And that's always been the case. I've actually found, in my experience doing marketing work for different clients, it can often be quite a difficult thing if you're not a prominent company or well established to get featured in a big publication. So now that we're slowly building up our user base, and also the number of people that get in contact with us, that's always going to be our #1 focus, is the little man. And of course we're always going to review the big blockbusters, but our arm will always be out for those that need that first break to get into the media and get mentioned with their film or whatever it may be. I think with Cinema Addicts, where we want to take it, we want to make it a reputable film website, which is the go-to place in not just in New Zealand but also around the world for informative, insightful, and engaging reviews, and also other content as well, which people will find useful. Now and again, we also do give people tips on how to promote their film. 5 ways that they can benefit from collaborating with different types of people. So we're also looking at adding new branches every day and creating content which helps benefit people, because I think a lot of the days content's out there, but it's more of a distraction to the task you're doing rather than providing you with some sort of practical benefit. So that's our focus. And so far it's been fantastic. Our feedback's been very good, and moving forward we want to make it even better.
I think it's a great service that you're offering, and yeah, may the force be with you, if that's the right thing to say from George Lucas and the Star Wars thing. Just to draw it to a close for our viewers, this live event will be, you can always come back to it. You've got the permanent link. You can come back if you want to watch the whole thing through. That's great from a YouTube perspective. We usually aim for 35 to 40 minutes, and we find that we get an audience retention rate of about 15 minutes, and people do come back in. So our live events, we've now added the applause button. The applause button, we don't hear any applause, but if you think that the comment has been really worthwhile and well made, then clicking the applause button gives both Stuart, myself, and any other participants in the film strip the opportunity to understand where we've been good at our communications. So it's a way of feeding back. And Stuart was the only question that came up. If you want to get to that particular question without watching the rest of the broadcast, all you do is just click, and there's a timestamp that will take you to our discussion of the question. Well, thank you very much for watching, and may I just end with the plug for next week's Live on Air, where I'm talking with Jim Pearson. Jim is a social worker and a historian that wrote a thesis on Bergen and Bergev rather, and Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the German and Lutheran theologians in the war that were implicated in the plot to assassinate Hitler. And he's bringing his series to a conclusion where we're going to discuss what are the threats of terrorism with which we're living now, and so we'll have a wrap-up of that series of issues of war and peace in the 21st century next Sunday at 7 o'clock. Meantime, thank you very much, Stuart, and we'll bring our broadcast to an end.